Let's get down to business. Thanks for coming out tonight.
I wrote me a manual, a step-by-step booklet for you to get.
Oh, I make money move.
You can't see me, my time is now.
What up, guys? Welcome back to the Fitness Times Business Podcast. My name is Joseph Mencel. I am your host, and I'm joined in this episode of Fitness Times Business by a new guest. Making his Fitness Times Business Podcast debut. What's happening, John?
Not much, mate. Happy to be here. Happy to be here. It's been
John Mahoney is your full name. You, as your T-shirt suggests, you run a business called Mail Post Haste here in the ADL. I'm going to give you a proper introduction. In fact, you're going to give yourself a proper introduction, man.
Please, I'll allow you
to do a better job of that. But before we get into it, I like to, at the start of every episode of Fitness Times Business, because we have a lot of new subscribers. You know, the show is doing quite well. People are, they're sharing the show, as I ask at the end of every episode, and a lot of people are finding out. So this may be the first episode that a particular listener has listened to. So I like to just remind everybody why you guys are tuning in to this particular podcast. And it's timely, actually, because we were having this discussion when we get a little brief. I said, these are the types of people that are going to listen. You guys are tuning in because you're trying to level up in fitness, you're trying to level up in business, your career, your personal, any aspect of life, you have ambition and you're trying to achieve some shit. And you're looking for practical advice and practical strategies on how to get there. And that's why you guys are tuning into this podcast, Fitness Times Business.
Absolutely.
And this episode is no exception. It's going to help you level up in all areas of your life, because this man's sitting across from me. Little bit of, I'm going to give you a little introduction,
right,
but then I want you to elaborate, right?
Let's go.
Because you know yourself better than I know you, but we have known each other for a little bit. In fact, I want you to tell the story about how we first met, John. But real quick, owner of Mail Post Haste, which is a transport company.
Logistics solutions, yeah.
Let's go logistics, delivery, You're in the transport industry.
Transporting industry, absolutely.
Here in the ADL. You've owned and operated that company for the better part of 5 years.
Just gone 5 years, yeah.
Yeah. You are in your company, there's like 24, 25 people in the business.
There's about 24 make the wheels work.
Yeah. Before that, you were at General Motors.
At General Motors, at Holden's for 13 years, just shy.
13 years. Yep. Started at like ground level production line, shit kicker.
72 seconds, one job, same thing, every 72 seconds.
Beautiful. Right at the entry level. And you worked your way up in GM here in Adelaide as well.
Out in Elizabeth, yeah.
For, over that 13-year period to, where did you finish at GM?
I finished off after my apprenticeship becoming a toolmaker and then a project manager and area supervisor.
There you go. So you kind of work your way up
working way up over a few different steps.
Yeah, you worked your way up that ladder in General Motors.
The internal ladder.
General Motors shit the bed here in Australia.
Shit the bed in 2013 was the year.
So that 13 years that you kind of invested, I guess, in that career was, that came to an end by...
Came to a halt.
Well, screeching halt.
Screeching. Kind of like 2020 for most of us.
Well, and you know what, man? This is why I've been trying, I said a while ago that I wanted to get you on the show, and it's perfect timing because of your life experience and your career experience.
It's impeccable timing.
Which is why you guys are going to get so much out of this episode of the podcast. But worked your way up to GM shut the bed, and then you've kind of completely changed directions, gone into running your own business, gone into a completely new industry.
Complete transition.
You're kicking goals with Mail Post Haste.
Absolutely. So after GM shit the bed, it came to the point of finding something else to do with my life.
Yeah.
So 30 years of age.
Yeah.
Finished high school, spent my 20s working for one particular person.
Yeah.
And then it's time to figure out what I want to do for the rest of my time. Mm-hmm. So from that came the thought that I want to do something for myself and be in control of my own destiny.
Sure.
So rather than being governed on a win or lose to somebody else, making myself accountable whether I win and lose myself as a person. So from that came to the point of working for myself and then running Post Haste entirely for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Real quick, I just want you to tell the story of how we met, because I want to put obviously Mail Post Haste, you do a bit of business for Massive Joe's and T&J Apparel.
Yep.
You're also involved in, another one of my little projects, which is the IFBB Pro League.
I think that's quite a big project that we do.
Well,
it's important.
Yeah, no, it is. It's hugely important.
Don't underestimate it.
I just look at it in terms of like time investment. In terms of like all the shit that I do, it's not a big time investment
for the people that get on stage. It's a big time investment.
It's a huge. Yeah, absolutely correct. But how did we kind of cross paths?
So we crossed paths coincidentally about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And the way that actually happened was myself doing delivery, logistics, courier work. Was I wanted to align Mail Post Haste with Massive Joe's, knowing that you yourself was an Adelaide company, Adelaide based, and completely Adelaide.
Yeah.
Made that an easier decision for me, as well as knowing with your multiple stores and everything like that. So I done a little bit of research / stalking, and then I found you on Instagram. I thought that may be the best way to be able to contact you and introduce myself and services. So with that in my notes in my phone, I had a message written out, kind of, "Hi Joe, my name's John." Very stalkerish, but still short and personal, that you knew it wasn't a copy and paste selling from international.
Yeah. What did the message say? I don't know. You told me this story off camera like 10 minutes ago. It's the first time I've heard it.
I know. Yes.
I have no recollection of it.
So it was very, very simple. I'm John Mahoney.
Yeah.
I own Mail Post Haste.
Yeah.
We're an Adelaide distribution logistics company. I'd love to talk to you, see how we could better help you guys at Massive Joe's.
Yeah.
I had that written down in my notes, exactly how it was going to be sent. I then, for a couple of weeks, watched you on Instagram trying to figure out a appropriate time that you would have the time to be able to look at it and not dismiss the idea off the cuff because you were too busy. I then came to that conclusion when you're in an airport. I believe you're going to the UK for body power or something along that line. At that time I copied and pasted it into my Instagram and then sent it to you when you're at the airport saying, "Hey everybody, I'm off. See you later."
Full Insta stalker mode.
Full Insta stalker mode. And then from there, you obviously forward that on to Larry Bird, aka Steve Mills.
Yeah.
And that's where the seeds were planted.
That's where the bromance began.
That's where the bromance began.
And we've had a good. I can't believe it's only been 3 years, to be honest.
I believe it's been
like I've known you like
a bit over 3
years.
That's how business works. It just accelerates everything.
Yeah.
So in that time with the bodybuilding shows and the distribution, everything that goes along with it.
And the reason why I've been wanting to get you on this podcast is obviously you have a lot of experience in business, in career.
Yep.
You've made some really courageous decisions along your career journey. I mean, you just highlighted one of them, leaving, at 30 years old, what you thought was going to be your career to go and do something completely different.
Completely polar opposite.
And, it's funny because whenever you drop in here at Massive Joe's, we always just get talking about shit. And last time you were here, I was like, man, we should do a podcast.
Yeah, when it was just in the next room.
It's like, hey, John, hey, Joe. And then we just dive into something.
Go down this rabbit hole.
Even today, before you came in to brief for this podcast, we just went down a rabbit hole of fucking coronavirus.
Yeah, coronavirus. I was like, I think it was it was you that said it to recalibrate how are things going.
Yeah.
Today is going good. This time last year, today wouldn't have been good.
Yeah.
But recalibrating for
it's the coronavirus calibration.
I like it. I've written it down. That was you before. The coronavirus calibration.
But this podcast, we could talk about so many things, guys, and I would love to get John on here multiple times to talk about a lot of different things. But I think where we want to head with this episode of Fitness Times Business is this idea of process over product. And what we're talking about here is particularly relevant to the current circumstance, but really is relevant to any circumstance, is a lot of people that, a lot of you guys, you're tuning into this, as I mentioned, because you're trying to level up, which means you're setting goals, which means you're continuously setting bigger and better goals.
Progressing forward in your life.
Exactly. You're progressing. And I think that what happens a lot of the time, and like I was saying to you off camera, the more I have this discussion with people who have a similar mindset, with people who are full of ambition, with people who have the core value of achievement sits
The
high
possession
in
of
their-
drive.
Yeah, it sets high in their order of priority of values. You know,
Yes.
they're trying to progress.
Trying to progress, trying to go forward.
The more I have this conversation, the more I'm becoming aware of how it resonates with so many people. Is this consistent? I'm going to say obsession. I'm not sure that's the right word, but let's roll with it.
I'd go
This
with
consistent obsession with achieving goals, setting the next one, achieving the next one, setting the next one, and that's the product.
Always moving
Right?
forward.
Is just being focused on the product
And the results.
and never taking the time to just sit with the process.
Yes.
And so this idea of process over product that we're going to dive into is really focusing on different parts of the process of any goal.
All
It
the
can
different,
be,
all related to everything.
Mate, it can be fitness, it can be business, it can be your personal life, your family life, it can be any area of your life that you're looking to progress in.
It'll work for all of them.
100% is just being in the process.
Being
And,
present.
You know, this balance of trying to achieve certain products, trying to achieve certain goals, trying to make certain progression, but at the same time, not taking for granted the process of getting there.
And whether it's a good process or a bad process of taking away what you can and turning it into a positive.
Yeah. So you wanted to start with this, you know, starting small. You know,
Starting small.
Yeah.
I think too many people, whether it's business, their personal relationship, whether it's renovating a house or progressing internally in a company, want to take off more than they can chew too quick and try to accelerate the process. On their first day in a new work, they're coming with new ideas of tried and true methods that may already be established and work because they're trying to accelerate a process rather than taking it small and logically.
Trying to be too fast.
Trying to
move too fast. You know what I see a lot of, man, just with this, you know, especially at the point where you're starting, and you have personal experience with this.
Absolutely.
When you left GM, you didn't start Mail Post Haste from the ground up, but you took that business from where it was.
A very basic.
Pretty much planted new seeds.
A very basic model.
Yeah, you effectively did start. But what I see a lot is, you know, people starting anything, any particular goal, is they set this big end product based goal, right? This big overwhelming, you know, and it's very important to set that. It's kind of like the stretch goal. It's kind of like it's the vision effectively. But they get so overwhelmed by it that they actually don't even know where to start. And a lot of the time they get so overwhelmed that they don't start at all.
And that's right. And they almost paralyze themselves through the overwhelmment.
Yeah.
Is they just don't actually achieve anything rather than breaking it down of what they just need to do on that particular day.
Yeah.
It might only be 3 things to achieve that day, and they might be very simple, as in go to the bank to set up a new bank account if you're setting up a new business.
Yeah.
Or it could be to get new merchandise that you need done. So you're working for 4 weeks without your corporate clothing top on.
Yeah.
Because you just haven't actually taken those steps to move forward in a logical manner. You're too worried about the end result of not setting up the foundation to get the longevity and the goals that you really achieve. Yeah. And being unrealistic with your goals.
What do you reckon, you know, from a strategic perspective? Because I'm a big fan of visualization. I'm a big fan of setting, you know, what's your vision? Like what is your long-term, big as you can possibly go, stretch goal or vision for what you're currently doing for any particular area of your life. Right? So you can take for me, for example, right? My let's take my competing, right? So my stretch goal, my vision is to win a Mr. Olympia physique title.
To get up there on the Mr. Olympia.
That's like the ultimate vision.
The end
result. I look at, you know, at my business, I'm trying to, I guess from a revenue perspective, well, actually it's not even my stretch goal. That's my current goal. But let's go, you know, we're trying to get to 9 figures in turnover as a business.
Try to get the revenue
right?
out there.
So, you know, I think that those are very important. But what's the practical advice that you can give from your experience about how to have that, but not get so overwhelmed by it that you don't actually start at all?
I think that's a good one. So we'll take that goal of going to 9 figures, where I have a similar goal where it's a revenue-based goal, which, you know, it's to get to those kind of numbers.
And I think a lot of business owners do,
A lot of business owners do. Because
I mean, you know, I'm not a big fan of measuring the success of a business by revenue.
It
But
definitely helps.
But it is, you know, when you're talking about growth of a business, it is a decent metric.
It's a good metric to use where it's universal from 2019 to 2020 for yourself. It doesn't need to be
year on year.
It doesn't need to be publicly known.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the to pull back that is to not overanalyze that and figure out how you're going to get to that. So whether it's increasing your sales or your customer service and making sure you take value in each one of those.
Yeah.
So to figure out what your core business is and what you offer differently is specialize in that and stick to that. So from my personal preference with Post Haste is the personalized service. That's the difference that sets myself apart from other people, where Joseph knows that he can call me or message me and get the result that he actually desires. That's what sets me different. And that's how I know I'll be able to go forward in the future, and how I've been able to retain people through this 2020 Corona style shitstorm that is now 2020 that's why I've been able to retain my place in the market is because of the fundamental differences that I knew I could set up to be able to retain people.
What would you, so let's say, you know, the listeners at the moment, they're thinking about a particular area of their life. It might be a stretch fitness goal, a stretch fitness vision. It might be a business vision. It might be a career vision. If they, you know, they're not interested in running their own business, they're just interested in working for someone else, they got a career vision.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's like a personal vision. You know, they want to get married and have a family and have children and grandchildren, and you know, like you know, that big
big stretch,
right?
Yep.
How do you get that down to what am I doing right now?
I think break everything down as far as you can. It used to be like a 5 whys. Why? If you keep asking why, you're going to get your answers.
Yeah.
So get everything down to a yes or a no, and then focus on the yeses and delete the nos. Figure out, write the 10 things down, knowing that you don't have time for those 10, then prioritize them into 3 and work on those 3.
Yeah.
Once you achieve those 3, then look at the ones under that.
Yeah.
And numbers 4 to 10 may have changed in that time. It took you to do 1 to 3. So don't look at 10 at a time and try to achieve them. If it is have a wife and children and grandchildren and run a 9-figure company and travel the world, all those things. So look at what's most important in the time frame in a number of, say, 10, pull those 3 and work on those 3.
Yeah.
Don't forget the other ones, because you might be able to do things to advance numbers 4 to 10, but have a look at numbers 1, 2, and 3 and work on them for a specific amount of time. In the same time is implement processes to achieve those 3 in a methodical way. So I think to go with those ones.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. This is going to come as no surprise to the listeners. I'm a big fan of SMART goal setting.
Yep.
SMART is, you know, I have the big visions for all different areas of my life, but then I make sure that my goals are SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound.
Absolutely.
So I tend to start with the T because I like to set goals in a 12-month period. So that's my time bound.
You don't want to work too far out.
100%, right? So I will, you know, usually for most parts of my life, it's a 12-month.
A calendar 12-month. Do you kind of find you go 12 months from
I do
middle
year
of the
to
year,
year,
or do you go year to year?
I go year
calendar
to year.
year?
This year, because of the shitstorm, is a little different. Most of the time,
everyone's had
most
to-
of the time it's like January to December or January to January.
Calendar,
year on year. So I start with the T, the time bound. Then you go specific, measurable, attainable, realistic. So then the second part, I literally work backwards.
I think the realistic's a big one.
Huge, right? Because that's where people get overwhelmed because they're like, fuck, all right, you know, I want to get my business to 7 figures of revenue from 0 to 7 figures. I know that, you know, my time bound is the 12 months.
Yep.
What is actually realistic in that period of time?
And then
that's a big
I think
part of it.
they don't break it down to the realistic of going, I need $1 million a year.
Yeah.
As a starting point. I'll break that down. Then they get overwhelmed with what they need to achieve in the first week and the first month.
Yeah.
And that's when they start to realize the R was never actually realistic.
Never realistic in the first
and
place.
then they blow everything else out because then they're disheartened rather than recalibrating and reevaluating and changing the goal, which is fun.
Which is so relevant right now.
You know, everything that I made and you made back in January,
Yeah.
we may not have achieved them.
Yeah.
Now we're halfway through the year.
Yeah.
But you've just got to keep liquid and move the goals to what they are.
Yeah.
And plant seeds that could flourish that you don't even know you might have done. Like when we were talking off camera, that lessons we learnt 5 or 10 years ago, you realize them now.
100%. And then the other parts are specific and measurable, obviously. I'm a big fan of setting goals that are very specific. Obviously, it might be a number-based goal. Like even I said to you, right, just without even thinking, I want to win Olympia men's physique title. That it doesn't get more specific than that. I want to get my business revenue to 9 figures.
Yeah.
So it's very specific.
Very
and
specific.
And it's measurable as well. You can go, when you reach that point, tick, goal achieved.
Yeah, you've got the medal or you don't. And then at the end of the financial year, you've got those numbers in.
You've got the numbers or you don't.
It's very
Simple.
easy. It's a yes, no, black, white.
Yeah. So,
answers.
and that's why I'm such a big fan of it. So, you know, I guess the take home from this part of the discussion is make sure you have vision. Make sure that your vision there's a lot of clarity about your vision.
Yeah.
But then break the vision down into SMART SMART goals.
And exactly. And keep to your goals.
Yeah.
But don't be quote unquote married to them. So back in January, like this is a great year for not being able to achieve your goals, but then being able to pivot in a new direction. So it comes June, July, you're realizing you're not going to achieve those goals, but what have you achieved so far? Or what are the shorter timeline goals that you could improve on? And it might be your customer service. It could be as simple as your penmanship or how you read, present yourself. There's other things you can take away from not achieving your goals to be able to almost make micro goals in there.
You know, that's an interesting point, John. We weren't going to discuss this, but I think it's just so relevant at the moment is how do you, because there's one thing to be said about setting your SMART goals, setting your goals, right? And you kind of know that you're not tracking towards achieving them.
Yeah.
And so you kind of throw the towel in and go and set different ones.
Absolutely.
That on one scale. And then there's the other scale where you have coronavirus or something that's completely out of your control that just throws a spanner in the works.
Yep.
So you're kind of forced to reset those goals.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that first example, though, sometimes can be used as a bit of a cop-out.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you haven't done the work and you haven't put in the fucking effort and you're not doing what you need to do on a day-by-day basis, that doesn't give you a license to go and change your goal.
No.
Because you fucked up.
And that's where a lot of people don't make themselves accountable.
Yeah.
They don't put in the work.
Yeah.
They don't achieve the goals. And it could be very small, simple goals of being able to do A, B, and C in a day. They don't do it.
Yeah.
But rather than leveling up and just being honest with yourself, where you're the person that looks in the mirror,
Yeah.
making an excuse to your friends or your family or to yourself as a reason why you didn't. And it could be as simple as in the morning, you just couldn't be stuffed and you didn't get out of bed. And that's why you're late. Rather than getting there and saying, make an excuse and not being accountable, just level up and say, this is what happened. And actually know you're not achieving your goals because it's you.
Yeah.
And not change your goals because you haven't met them. Change your goals if it's warranted or there's an actual legitimate reason that that's happened, e.g. Corona, or you may have made a goal that's a bad, poor choice. I've made many business decisions where I made the choice, it's happening, and then I've turned around and gone, I've had to pull the pin. So that goal won't be achieved, but I went into it with the best intentions. And it could be a new stream, a new line, or a new service. And in your head, it works. So you make the goal that you want to be able to provide this service to people in a timely manner, and it's just unattainable. But not all goals need to be made and achieved. They don't all have to be achieved, but you need to take something from the ones you don't achieve to make sure you achieve the ones that are obtainable.
Talk to me about this linear versus spherical progression.
So I've been enlightened about the goals for the sphere.
Yeah.
So
because this ties into exactly what you were talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, sometimes you might set a particular goal that you're trying to achieve, and for whatever reason, you kind of, it's the old 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards scenario. You take a few steps forward, and then coronavirus happens, or something that's outside of your control happens. Maybe there's a change in legislation, or there's something that does not come down to you personally not doing what you were supposed to do.
You had every intention of it.
Yeah, where you're forced to take a backward step from that goal.
Yeah, and I think, like we're saying, so with the sphere of goals, is not looking at things linear as a line, as forwards or backwards.
Yeah.
Like
and
I said, it's
I
3-dimensional.
And I think, this is something that I have, it's been so useful to me, definitely over, I would say at least the last couple of years of my life. Because I've had to take a lot of backward steps in different areas of my life.
Absolutely.
For a whole bunch of different reasons. And this has been just an analogy that has helped me so much in terms of framing and in terms of perspective. And if you start with that linear progression, right?
Yep.
So many of us who have high levels of ambition and are trying to achieve shit, we measure progression towards a particular goal on a straight line.
Yep. Forwards or backwards.
Forwards or backwards. Right?
Black, white.
And if you take a side step, you're standing still.
Yep. You're just still in neutral.
Just doing nothing.
Doing nothing.
And I think that's quite a useful analogy, because it does put a bit of pressure on you to continue to move forward.
A very 2-dimensional thought.
The problem where it falls down is when things happen that are outside of your control and you're forced to take steps backwards.
Yes.
Because it starts to affect your self-esteem, it starts to affect your confidence, it starts to affect your self-worth, because you think like you're moving backwards.
Yeah.
Right? So what I did was I started framing goal progression instead of linear, instead of a straight line, as a sphere.
More of a 3-dimensional outlook.
A 3-dimensional circle. A sphere.
Absolutely.
So if you consider, let's just consider polar opposite ends of the sphere. Yep. If you're taking a step backwards from one end of the sphere over here, it's actually a step forwards in another direction.
In the other way.
Towards a different goal.
Yeah.
Towards, it may be a polar opposite goal.
If you're heading south, you're heading north in a different direction.
100%. And then same thing, if you're taking a step sideways,
you could be going to something uphill.
You're going towards something
You're
else.
going towards something else.
And I think that we look at the current circumstances where, for a lot of people, definitely business and career, and for a lot of people as well, fitness too.
Absolutely.
Gyms and shit
With gyms being shut. And
if you look at a particular goal in fitness or business or career linearly, you're going to run into problems.
You're going to become disheartened.
100%.
Which I think will end up making you go back further, faster.
Yeah.
Where I think, like you've said, with the linear 3-dimensional thought, is even though you might be going negative in one aspect of your life, you can still be going positive in other aspects. So it could
give me some examples. What have you found in in the last 4 or 5 months since the virus hit and everything got turned upside down? What have you been able to reframe as being a step backwards as actually being a step forwards in a different area of your life?
So if we go a very simple business one of going backwards in business of the economy just slowing down. It gives you the ability to stop trying to move forward in increasing revenue or getting new customers. It forces you to realize why you've retained the customers you've retained.
100%.
So then that gives you the basis to be able to, it could be the development between client relations, or it could be the service that you provide from your customers to your customers, sorry.
Yeah.
So that's giving you that one. In a more of a personal thing was being able to slow down and not have as much on your plate because you don't have the ability to move forward. So for me personally, not being able to approach potential new customers because they're not there. They're working from home. The places are shut. The phones are diverted. You know yourself that it can't happen. So rather than sit there and go, business is going to take a back step and being focused on that, it could just be as simple as going to go visit your parents or your grandma on a little bit more of a regular basis, which you may not have done. But then you've increased your value as a person. So then as a 35-year-old male, female, 40 or 20 or however old you may be, you've increased your value as a person. So you've taken a devaluation of a business or professional stance, but you've increased your value overall, which could also be another one of your goals. Or it could be processes at home and just enjoying some downtime and some actual real relaxation time because you can't advance.
Yeah.
So I think that's a positive that we can take out of 2020, this shitstorm that we're in, is you can still progress in a different avenue of your life.
Yeah. 100%. I'll give a couple of examples for me.
Yeah.
Because I think about this shit a lot. Because the problem with me, John, is I can get myself in a really like dark headspace if I focus on linear too much. So I come back to this analogy of spherical progression like daily.
Yep.
100% with what you were just saying, my progression towards business goals, towards that, nine-figure revenue, for example, and all the other business shit that
all the things that go along with
that, right?
Everything that makes up that pyramid.
Let's take that linear, that edge of the sphere that is business and career that I've had to take steps backwards. Definitely the steps backwards have allowed me to take steps forwards in my personal life.
Yeah, in your personal life. And
100%. That I would never have had the opportunity to do, to invest the time and the effort in that area of my life. So for me, that's huge. I'm like, fuck, man. Like I would never have this opportunity.
And it could be the fact now they've been highlighted to you just because of the clarity of time, where the things you might not have known 12 months ago that you wanted to work on and of your personal life. And there could be very simple things that you've implemented, but they were never on your radar because we're all too obsessed with the moving forward and achieving the next goals. So we're all very driven with the entrepreneurship or the business or getting a promotion. As you're always so focused on that this has forced us to be able to take a self-evaluation and work on other bits in the sphere,
100%
towards other aspects.
I'll give you an example of because that's very much like almost polar opposites, and we any business owner struggles with this, man.
Absolutely.
Your personal life and your career, and really anyone who has career ambition struggles with this. Your personal life and your career are at polar opposites.
It's very hard. It's very hard for them to parallel.
Very difficult. I'll give you a sidestep example, right? So let's take my fitness goal, right? Let's take what I'm trying to do as a pro men's physique athlete. So I did the prep for my pro debut.
And we're talking January 2020.
We're talking January, right? The goal this year was to do the Arnold Australia, do the New York Pro, do the Pittsburgh Pro, qualify for the Olympia, do the Olympia this year. That was going to be dip my toes in the water at the Olympia. 6 days before I'm supposed to make my pro debut, show gets cancelled. Right? I keep prepping because I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'll just go to the US.
We'll just see what happens.
2 weeks later, borders get shut. Shit blows up. So I'm like, okay, well, the steps that I was going to take towards that goal of making it to the Olympia stage and, ideally one day winning an Olympia, I've had to take steps. The definite, the
steps have changed.
Well, but now they're kind of, it's not necessarily backward steps. The side steps. Right? So the side step for me was, okay, I'm probably not going to be able to compete for 2 or 3 years because we're not going to be able to travel to the US. That's where most of my shows are. That's where the Olympia is for sure. So I'm going to take a side step now and let me to continue to work on my physique. Let me continue to build muscle in the places I need to build muscle. Let me take that process of going through that prep and 6 days before the show being told that I actually can't compete. So that, let's not frame that as well, that was a waste of a prep. No. Let's frame that as, okay, that was probably the best prep I've done. What was right about it? What lessons can I take from it? What could I do better next time? Let's take that as a little bit of a side step.
And then looking and evaluating.
100% and use that as an experience. So, having this analogy of sphere just allows you to frame those backward steps and those side steps as not backwards or side, but actually forward towards a different direction.
Towards a different angle.
Towards a different goal.
The stairs haven't changed. You've just to change your process, how you're tackling them. So rather than going one way, you're just taking a little bit of a curve and you're working on a different aspect.
I want to, you just touched on something just before I gave that second example of being present in the process.
Being present in the process.
Talk to me a little bit about that because you've got a quite an interesting view on that.
So what I mean by present in the process is you don't always have to enjoy the process. And I think that's a big thing it's definitely since 2015 to 2020. In the last 5 years especially the last 3 is everything's got to be enjoyed or everybody's got to smash everything. everything's got to be so extreme.
Because so much of what we consume is highlight reels these days, man.
It's because of the highlight reels.
All this fucking highlight reel bullshit.
You know, and you don't have to enjoy everything.
Yeah.
It could be your morning cardio. You don't have to enjoy it every single day.
Yeah.
Or it could be the paperwork you do at the end of the week of doing the process that needs to be done for the reason, but enjoying the entire process, not to the extreme that you think it may need to be.
Yeah.
Just because you're not sitting there absolutely smiling and laughing every second of it, look at the bigger picture. On a Friday evening, it could be 7 p.m. and you're finishing off your week's work. That will allow you to have your Saturday mentally free and be present at that family lunch you're going to attend.
Yeah.
That's the process that you enjoy. Don't necessarily need to enjoy counting something on a Friday night while you're going over paperwork.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by being present, is giving it what it deserves and enjoying it for what it is, not what society thinks you should enjoy.
You know, the thing that I've found as well, I'm a huge fan of the mindfulness movement.
Yep.
You know, like the rise of meditation and apps like Headspace and Calm and all that. I think it's amazing, and it's been a big
Mental
part.
health, yeah.
Well, mental health in
Mental health in
general,
general.
right? But mindfulness is such a pillar of that. And, you know, I just think that's so wonderful, and it's been a big part of my life for a long time as well. And I'm happy to see so many people getting around it now.
To absorb it.
Mate, if you hit me like 5 years ago, like I wouldn't tell people that I meditated because they think I was like a fucking yogi.
Bead wearing hippie, yogi.
100%, you know,
No
never
drawstring
showered,
in your pants
with
and-
wearing like a curtain and shit. But now you can say it. Like now I tell everyone, I meditate every day.
Yeah, and I think...
And it's much more socially accepted. Go ahead.
And I think that's where there are positives for everything these days.
Yeah.
Where everything's got to be enjoyed and the rest of it. But also everyone's really realizing that everybody's human.
Yeah.
Everybody has their down days.
Yeah.
Everybody may find solitude in meditating or walking and things like that. And there's people aren't as ashamed to reach out for advice.
Yeah.
Or for knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's the things that can accelerate your own process.
100%.
Is being able to ask somebody that's a further advanced, which quite often could be in age. When you're 22 and you're starting out, you talk to a 27-year-old or a 35-year-old, they've got a lot of knowledge on top of you, because at the end of the day, until you were 18 or 20 years old, you didn't know shit. From the school system.
I feel like I still don't know shit.
I honestly feel
I've been
the
in
same.
business. Well, I've been in business now. 15, 6, coming up, 17 years.
Yeah, and that's what I think is.
I still don't know anything.
You look at the things you do know, you realize how much you don't know. Yeah. Then you start thinking about how many more things you mustn't know. Yeah. And that's what drives you to know them, which sounds very complicated. But when you look back, and like you said, you learn everything looking back, is that there's so much more in the future. And one day they will become the past that you understand and learn. So be present and know there's something in everything.
Yeah. I think where I was kind of going with my discussion on the rise of mindfulness is I think that a lot of people, the message that gets misinterpreted is that, you know, being present and being in the process and, you know, that needs to be enjoyed all of the time.
Yeah.
That needs to be a positive experience all of the time through the experience of positive emotions. You need to be happy, you need to be blissful, you need to be feeling satisfied and fulfilled, and, you know, all of these different positive emotions. But the truth is, and this is why we say be present in the process. We don't say be happy in the process, or we don't say enjoy the process. We say be present in the process.
Present.
Because often the experience of negative emotions in the process is actually more valuable than the experience of positive emotions.
Absolutely.
Right? You may be part of a process. It might, like you gave some examples of work. Let's take some fitness examples. You're trying to lose some body fat, and a process of that body fat is being in caloric deficit and dieting and feeling
and
hungry.
not snacking at night time.
Yep. And just going through that experience, that not very nice emotional experience of feeling hungry.
Yeah.
Right? But you still have to be present in that process.
You have to feel it and not mask it.
Yes, you have to be present, because here's the thing, John. And, you know, the more life experience I have in all different areas of my life, the more I've come to realize that if you do things to numb or distance yourself from negative emotions,
Yep.
you're actually also numbing and distancing yourself from the ability to experience the full-fledged positive emotions.
100%.
Right? So the more that you can lean into the negative experiences of a process of whatever it is, maybe it's being hungry because you're trying to lose body fat. Maybe it's doing the paperwork late on a Friday night because you're trying to achieve a particular business goal.
Yep.
Maybe it's having a difficult conversation with your partner or your spouse because it's in the interest of your relationship that you guys are open and vulnerable with each other.
Yep.
Whatever it is, you have to lean into that negative emotion.
Yeah.
You have to be present, even though it's not pleasant to do it. You have to be present in that process to allow yourself to be present in the positive emotional experiences of the process.
And I think that's been exactly like you said, is having all the emotions available.
Yeah.
It's like when you're, both us share a basketball background, playing district as children and that, you have to practice to enjoy the game.
Yep.
You have to go through the suicides, running up and back.
You've got to do the shit that sucks,
You've got to do the shit that sucks so that when you play and you get the victory, you've actually enjoyed it, you've earned it. And I think children are probably better at us than this.
Yeah.
Is they will do all the training of suicides because they know it's not they don't know or they do know, it's just human nature. Where as you get older, you start to mask it. You feel uncomfortable, you feel vulnerable, you feel anxious. You start to address those feelings through your teens, 20s, 30s. And unless you level up and admit them, they're very hard to get over. People go, I'm anxious, and they don't want to have that conversation, even though deep down they may know that's for the greater good of their business or their relationship or anything to do with their life. They just don't want to actually do it and address it. So then when the good things come around, they also can't feel that because they've been running for so long. Well, that's when you say this mindful, and you said it before when I wrote it down next to me, was the blissful happiness.
Blissful pursuit.
Blissful pursuit of happiness. I wrote happiness. That's all right.
Mate, if you're going to fucking quote me, quote correct.
I don't have the quoting on there. It's just blissful happiness.
Blissful pursuit.
Blissful happiness.
Yeah,
Blissful pursuit is you've got to have everything to go with there to enjoy it. Where being mindful and present is the part.
Yeah. And I think that, the real big take home from that is that you don't have to enjoy every step of the process.
Absolutely.
But you still have to be present in it.
You have to be present and look at it as a whole and enjoy parts of it and look at it as percentages. So it could be as simple, and we don't always have to go business, fitness, those kind of things. It could be as simple as having a nice meal on a Sunday night. You enjoy the result of a nice home-cooked meal. You don't necessarily have to enjoy peeling the potatoes.
Yeah.
So you've got to look at both of them and look at the bigger picture of why you're actually wanting to do that. So you don't have to enjoy cutting and peeling the potatoes, waiting for them to boil, but you might enjoy the reward of having your Sunday night roast. And you can look at that analogy with many other things in your life is why are you doing it, and enjoy it and be present.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to go out and buy something to be present. You can do it yourself.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting as well? I'm just thinking about some personal experiences that I've had that often the deeper down that rabbit hole that you go with really leaning into the negative emotions of a process, the more you appreciate the positives that come out of the other side.
Yeah. And you do. The further you go in, the further you come out as well.
It's a great analogy, that meal analogy that you just gave, peeling potatoes.
I was pretty happy with it, to be honest.
Yeah. No, but 100%. That is a perfect analogy for so many different areas of your life. If you're there and you're doing the shit and you're experiencing the shit of peeling the potatoes and cutting the steak up and whatever it is, you're going to appreciate that meal
A hell of a lot more.
more.
A lot more. Rather than taking the easy step and ordering out or just cutting corners and go, I'm not going to worry about that. So set your goal realistic.
Yeah.
And it can just be those little things.
Yeah.
And that will give you time away from your business or your work and be present with that and enjoy that 2 hours you've put aside on your Sunday afternoon to make yourself dinner. And be present with that particular meal. And this meal can be substituted for anything. It can be substituted with your morning cardio. Enjoy that time for doing your cardio, your morning walk, and let that flow into everything else. So enjoy all the processes for the bigger picture of having that meal.
One of the things that I want to get your opinion on here, John, is balance.
Yep.
How do you, and we kind of touched on this with the spherical progression where we said, usually career and business progression and personal life progression are at opposite ends.
It seems to be opposite ends.
Right? One of the questions that I get asked a lot, and I have a pretty solid way of thinking about this, but I'm interested to get your input, is how do you balance, quote unquote balance, it kind of gives away my position on it. How do you balance all the different things that you're trying to achieve in your life, or all the different things that you have ambition? So on one hand, you've got, your business or your career. On one hand, you've got your personal life. You've then got your physical health and fitness. You've then got your
mindful health and fitness.
Mental health and mindfulness. You've then got your family goals. You've got your financial, you've got all of these different areas of your life that are often disjointed or disconnected, right? Often pursuit of one is going to lead to the non-pursuit of another.
Yep, absolutely.
What's your take on how to balance?
So balance is a word that isn't universal. It's different for every person. So one person's idea of balance is another person's not. So some people is a 9 to 5 or a 7 to 3, and then they've got their children at this time, and then they've got their sleeping or their downtime, things like that. And that's what they call balance, which is amazing. And then you've got other people, which there's nothing wrong with being an early bird or a night owl. They're two different people. One's not right and one's not wrong. If you particularly find that you're more productive and easier to get up at 6 a.m. and do your things at 6 p.m. And then that takes the weight off in the evening time, or you might be a person where you go, I want to use my morning time to relax and put in a personal time for that and then work the night shift. There's nothing wrong with being a night owl or an early bird. And I think too many people will put pressure on what they see other people do. And then when it comes to balance is, don't wait. I'm not a big waiter until things are broken to fix. So don't let your personal life collapse before you start to put energy into it. Try to recognize when things are going to happen before they happen as much as you possibly can. Don't let them get to it's too hard to salvage. So when it comes to balance it's all to the individual and who you surround yourself with or what you surround yourself with. If it's a professional thing, you need to find people with a similar mindset, motivation, and they can see the results of becoming a nine-figure company compared to zero. So surround yourself with that. When it comes to, say, relation and personal, family, that kind of thing, is you need to align yourself with people that are similar in that aspect of life. So your balance is determined also by everyone that surrounds you and who's around you to be able to assist and help you. If they don't understand what the objectives are, it's very hard for them to work with you, and you may feel like they're working against you.
I feel like a lot of the listeners, in fact, I know that a lot of the listeners, because it's just the nature of the personalities that this type of content attracts, most of the time you're kind of surrounded by people, and it may be friends, more than often not, it's family. Who don't have the same level of ambition that you do,
and that's fine.
The core value of achievement doesn't sit as high on their order of priorities as it does for you. So what you end up finding is that a lot of people try and project their visions of what your life should look like in terms of balance onto you, and sometimes will criticize you for not having their projection of what they think your life should look like in terms of balance.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You would have come across that a million times.
I still do.
I'm sure you're a fan of KFC.
Well, I shouldn't be.
You shouldn't be, but the nature of the beast, you like it. But the amount of time
I haven't had KFC in a long time.
I haven't
though.
had it in a minute.
My mouth's watering now.
I reckon there's one just up the road.
No, there is. I'm aware.
Zinger
I
burger.
smell that shit every day.
But they're things. That's what's important to you. And the amount of times you would have heard somebody say, Joe, just have it. It's fun. It's just a burger. But then you're devaluing your character of your goals. So that's where I think other people project theirs, where they don't want to absorb what they could learn, and that's fine. Everybody in the world, however many people, everybody's different, and I think that's when you become humble enough to know there's different people in the world.
Yeah.
I think that's when you can start to accept it and then make your own balance up.
Well, you can start to see that projection, right? You can start to go, okay, Mum, I appreciate what you're telling me, and I appreciate your concern, but that's your projection.
I'm going in a different direction.
That's not that's not how I want to live my life. Or, okay, brother or sister, thank you for having this chat with me. I can see that you're concerned about my personal life, or whatever it may be, and I'm going to take that on board. But have enough confidence and faith in your own beliefs to understand that your version of balance is slightly different, and that's completely fine.
And I think a lot of people, they take that with age.
Yeah.
As you get older, you seem to have less, when you're 20, everybody's got an opinion for yourself.
Yeah.
And when you're 25, it's a bit less, and every 5 years it seems less and less. So I think as you become, say, into your 30s.
You say it's less and less. I think that you just stop giving a fuck.
That's kind of where I was going, was the fact of you end up getting to the point where you go, I am me, whether you're male, female, whatever you may be, you get to a point and you go, this is me and this is my character.
Yeah.
It's the way I am.
Yeah.
Whether you're OCD or you're a clean person or an organized person, or I really like the analogy of, the night owl and the early bird.
Yeah.
They both achieve their goals in different ways. Nothing's right and nothing's wrong. It's up to that person of what suits them and what helps you sleep at night.
Yeah.
Whether it is writing things down on a piece of paper or on the back of your hand or sending yourself an email, nothing's right or wrong. And you stop giving a fuck of everyone else's views, and you're the person at the end of life. You're the one that's going to be sitting there going, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I played this game well.
Yeah, for real. That was the first mistake that I see a lot of people make, and that's some really good practical advice on how to deal with it. The other mistake that I see a lot of people make, or not mistake that I see a lot of people struggle on the balance perspective with trying to do a lot of things, trying to keep a lot of things in balance at the same time.
Spin too many plates.
It's trying to spin too many plates at exactly the same time. And they say, they end up spreading themselves a bit too thin.
Too thin, and plates smash on the ground.
Well, and they never actually achieve what they want to achieve in any area of their life because they don't focus enough time, energy, effort on one particular plate, for example.
Yep.
What's your advice on how to deal with that?
Be realistic of what you can actually do.
Yeah.
Be realistic of the time of the day of what you can actually achieve. Don't say yes to everything. Prioritize.
Yeah.
And it could
That's
be
a big one, man. Don't be afraid to say no.
Don't be afraid to say no. If you know you've got 2 hours worth of paperwork, and not everybody does paperwork these days, but of office work, if you've got 2 hours, give yourself 2.5 to make sure you get it done, not an hour and a half. You're better off having a little bit of extra time to overachieve, or give yourself that little bit of time to be able to get everything done. You're not going to be able to do everything you want to achieve in one day. So with that is just look at it realistically and don't get disheartened, and don't take on too many facets. So there's many facets, and you just got to say no. You can't always do everything. Yeah. So you've just got to prioritize what you want to get done and what you actually can get done. If you don't have time to go here, see this person, attend this meeting, and get a haircut, what's actually more important on that particular day? Yeah. If you're getting married the next day, you probably want to get that haircut, and catching up with this person is probably not that important. Where if it's just a normal day, you might need to, all right, you know what? Call your mate. I'm not coming in. Sorry, I'll be there next week. Yeah, is just leveling up with yourself and knowing what you can and can't do in the time given. And I think, for you and I, just trying to sit down here, how many weeks are we, Joe, I'm not coming in, John, I can't do it. Things like that is just knowing realistically to attend somewhere and do something takes time, and to give it the value that it deserves out of my time and for your time, as well as the people listening to this. We wanted to make sure this is done correctly, where if we just crammed it in the middle of a day that wasn't doing it. We do ourselves a disvalue, and we're devaluing everybody's time.
You know, that's brilliant, man. That you've done such a good job of articulating that, and it's something that I actually you just sparked a thought in me, because I have a way of describing this, but how I got to this point. So my way of describing this is micro obsession, macro balance.
Yep.
As I've said a lot of times, whatever you're focused on for a given period of time, you are all in. You are on the micro, you are obsessed. But on the macro, on the big picture, you understand that you're going to be micro obsessed about this, micro obsessed about that, micro obsessed about that for given periods of time.
For the small bits.
That's how I approach it. But you actually just sparked a thought how I got to that point, because I've never really considered where that came from. I know now where it came from.
Where?
I got very specific with my priorities.
Yep.
So I and it's exactly what you said. I know what areas of my life are important to me, what order of priority they sit in. And once I had that clarity, it allowed me to go micro obsession. So I'm going to, that's important to me. That sits on my order of priorities here. On the micro, I'm going to obsess over that. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to go to the next one. Micro obsess over that. When I'm done with that, I'm going to go to the next one. And that's how I achieve the macro balance.
Yeah.
But the first step, it's hugely important, and you guys are getting some gems in this episode, is to get that clarity about what is important to you.
And why.
Well, 100% why, right? That's part of the process. But what are your priorities? And once you get to that point, it's funny because I just before you came in, I was on the phone call to one of our sponsored athletes, Massive Joe sponsored athletes, and I was having a discussion with her, and I said, I literally said, don't be afraid to say no.
Yeah.
Right? Don't be afraid to turn down those opportunities.
You don't have to say yes to everything. Some of the
100%.
best things is when you say no.
Yeah. But to get to that point, you need to know what's important to you.
You need to know what the end result that you want is.
100%.
It goes back to everything. It's just knowing what you actually want.
Yeah.
And not being afraid to change. When you say about micro, like working on each thing.
Micro obsession.
Micro obsession is they can change around from day to day of what the importance is or the time of the month.
100%.
You know, whether it's coming towards the end of the month and you need to get your record keeping up to line. Then all of a sudden that becomes more of a priority later in the month than what it did in the middle of the month. Or payroll. When if it's weekly, fortnightly, that needs to be done at that particular time. So you need to make sure you give that its priority at that particular time. So it goes the same with everything. In the morning, a different priority to the afternoon, or the night time when you're at home. Your priority at 7 p.m. at night time would be different to your priority at 10 a.m. in the morning. And not to let your 10 a.m. priority get into your 7 p.m.
And you know what? This is beautiful because this ties into what we've been talking about earlier on in this podcast with mindfulness and being present. Is, you know, when I tell people the concept of micro obsession, macro balance, they get the micro and macro, they miss the obsession. The obsession is being 100% present,
all in
with what you're doing at that point in time. So if you are micro obsessed about your business, you are 100% in. You're not thinking about your personal life or your fitness goals or your family. You're in.
You're all in.
And then when you're with your partner or your family, you're 100% in. You're not thinking about your business or the gym or fucking whatever else it is. And then when you're at the gym, you're in the gym.
You're in the gym.
You're working on your fitness. You're not thinking about business or you're in. So the obsession part and being mindful and being present right then in the process is such an important part. And I'm so happy because that ties everything.
It just pulls everything together and figuring out ways that you can deal with it as well. If you are at home and you do find yourself all of a sudden there is something that just sparks and it could be something, just a little bomb just went off in your head. And so write it down and deal with it when that's a priority tomorrow. When you go all in back at work, then deal with that. Don't let that be detrimental to you being present with something that wasn't in that goal to begin with. So be okay with being a little bit liquid and moving,
100%.
but go all in when you're in.
John,
think we're good.
Thank you, man.
I liked it. I
It's
think
been
we're
a good
good.
chat.
It's been
A good chat.
long time coming, and I think it's definitely
we've gone
worked out
down
well.
all the different rabbit holes and found different rabbit holes that connect and tie all that shit together
Came all the way
somehow.
back up to the surface.
We got that all together.
We're good.
Man, thank you so much for your time. And, you know, this has been, man, I'm going to say, like 6 to 8 weeks in the making.
Yeah, it's been a
We've
while
trying to
in the
actually
making
sit down and do
for
this.
both of us to give each other the time.
Yeah, I'm so happy that because we say no, right?
Because we say no. Because we can't do it. You can't do everything.
But I'm so happy that we were able to synchronize and get this done. Real quick for the listeners and the viewers, where can they find you? And give your business a bit of a plug as well, because we kind of said what you do, but we didn't really say what you do.
So we can be found at Mail Post Ace. Just bang it in Google and go on the website. Obviously, contact us or Instagram handle that I'm sure Dill will chuck down here somewhere with your Mail Post Haste.
It's at mail_post_haste.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's the one. So Dill will chuck that in and you can just Google away to find Mail Post Haste.
Yep.
Basically, it's a logistics company in Metro Adelaide, whether it's mail, banking, product distribution, your internals, things like that. Any questions, just chuck an email on the contact us page and I'll get back to you. Give the number a call. Happy to answer anything and we go from there. But yeah, that's it.
That's it. That's all you got.
All we got. That's all we
Guys,
need.
you know what to do. I ask one thing in return for, getting awesome guests like John on the show, producing this show, putting it out on all the platforms so you guys can consume however the fuck you want to consume. So one thing, so many places, so many ways. The one thing I ask in return is that you share the show. Share it person to person. Give us a little plug. You know, one of the best ways that I love seeing people share the show is on Instagram story.
Yeah.
So take a screenshot right now of whatever podcasting platform you're listening on, or if you're watching this, take a screenshot of YouTube or whatever the fuck, man. Just take a screenshot and post it in your Instagram story. Tag myself in it at Joseph Mencel. Tag at mail_post_haste in it.
Yep.
And then John and I will see those tags and we'll
share
repost
them.
Repost
We'll
them, spread the love around. But that's the one thing I ask in return. If you guys have taken some value out of the show, just spread the love, man. Share the show
love
around.
Below it.
John, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
Guys, you could have been anywhere in the world right now, but you're here with us. We appreciate that. Until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Fitness Times Business Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, and if you enjoyed listening to this episode, make sure you give us a 5-star rating. Until next time, we'll catch you on the flip side.